Hi, everybody. Sharona here. Welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter Most. Welcome aboard the fun ship, the fun ship Conversations That Matter Most. And of course, I'm here with my co-navigator, lovely and inspirational Claudette. Hi, Claudette.
Hi, Sharona. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here to share another wonderful episode with you on Conversations That Matter Most.
Yay.
Yay!
Good thing we're not sad about it.
No, it
Or we're
would
dread.
be
Oh my God, we're dreading. No, we're not dreading. So, what's the opposite of dread? I don't know. Undread? We're
un-
undreading. Undreading.
undrinning. I don't know that word.
I made it up
Okay.
because that's what I do. For those who are new, for those who are followers for a while, welcome back. For new viewers, thank you for being here. And just a quick, what was it? I was synapses.
Some crazy bit of information.
Crazy, but we're going to be talking about too much information today. So I'm going to just share a little bit info about who we are and what we do. Um,
Not too much,
Not too much, just
just a little bit.
just a smidgen, just a smidgen. Um, abyssal of information. It's been a year now that Claudette and I have been doing these episodes of Conversations That Matter Most. And it all started when we were having a conversation and we realized, well, you know what? There is nothing really out there about people just having conversations about all kinds of topics. And so, we've done every week we come up with topics based on our conversations and what's going on in the world. And today we're going to talk about, again, too much information and when is it enough? When do we decide we've had enough information? And I know, Claudette, you work with midlife women. Not I work with midlife women. You work with stepmoms. And why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself and what you're all about?
All right, thanks, Sharona. So again, my name is Claudette, and I work with stepmoms, and I help them create and build stronger and healthier step families by providing them with tools and skills and the knowledge they need to come together. And I started this journey as a stepmom coach 10 years ago, in part because I'm a stepmom. I've been a stepmom, it'll be 27 years. And, there were no resources, or at least no good quality information. Obviously, this was before the internet, where we have an overload of information, which isn't always accurate or good, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so, I thought I wanted to share some good information, research-based, experience-based information that will actually help you rather than hurt you, because sometimes that's happened, where people will share information which is inaccurate, which actually harms people rather than help them. And so that's what I do. And so what about you, Sharona? I know you work with midlife women, which I'm one of them. And so what is it that you do, and how do people you know get help or support from you?
Well, thanks, Claudette. So I haven't been I've been a midlife woman for a while, but I've been a person, a transition and transformation specialist for a long time, and dealing with change on all kinds of levels in life, in business. And I look at the emotional impact of change, all the emotions that come with change. And because as I was also when I started, there was not a lot about supporting emotions. There still isn't enough about supporting emotions. And especially there's a sensitivity around midlife women around their emotional state as they go through this journey. And yet I didn't find, and it was either get do whatever. It's always something that, instead of just saying, this is what I'm feeling today, how do I deal with it? How do I deal with these emotions? And so I'm the kind of person that I might use a lot of words, but I actually use very little information. I do a lot of research and stuff, but I'm the kind of person that will give my clients enough information so they can figure out for themselves. I'm just the guide. I'm just the guide on the journey through midlife transition and transformation. And or like I call it midlife women dancing with change. I'm sort of the choreographer. The we are accountable and responsible for how we maneuver through change, but we're the ones that have to do it. I can give you the steps, but you still have to do the work or the
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you just shared, just so that I just want to jump in here, because one of the things you said, you're a guide. So you're not giving like people too much additional information, because this is our topic today, right? Oversharing too much information, or as my kids used to say, TMI, right?
Right. TMI, not too, yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the points, that you just shared is that, we already have a lot of information or a lot of knowledge inside of us. And as coaches, you're coaching midlife women and I'm coaching stepmoms. The thing is that we have a lot of information inside of us. And so what is it that drives us to accumulate some extra, or getting an overload of information in a world where anything and everything goes in terms of information, right?
Right. And, I think one of the things that this started in my area, there was this, I'm not going to go into it, but there was this horrific event that happened, and quite a few young people died. And what happened was this whole thing about staying on the air and just talking about, whenever there's like this tragedy, the news becomes this like 24 but the hour nonstop giving out information that really doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. And I think that also happens on the internet. We go looking for information about things, and we'll get all kinds of wacky things from all kinds of some good information, some accurate, some lies, some, whatever that is, because that's where everything goes. And I remember that the internet, when I started learning about computers and the internet and all that, I remember it started to gather information data for libraries. And so what happened is we now have all this information, and what we get overloaded. I think we get too much information about stuff we don't need. And then I think for some of us, we have this thing of overanalyzing, that there's something that we don't trust, our own wisdom, our intuition, and we go into, what is it? It's like a research addiction.
I can say I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty. I actually love research, and I actually love to go all over and look at information. But I think one of the, to your point, where we love to gather information, but there's good information and there's bad information, right? And that's what is hard to dissect and to differentiate. What is good information and what is bad, and is it pertinent to me?
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, how is this going to so let's look at when I'm trying to decide on a movie. I'm trying to decide on a movie, and I know it's very simple, but it's not a life or death thing. But I'm going to decide on the movie. Now, years ago, they had TV shows where people would come on and discuss movies and why they liked it and what they didn't. I miss those people. I miss those having because of how I function in the world. I like to hear other people talk about, as long as it's not clouded in sand in wackiness or lies or anything. But listening to someone have a conversation about a movie, I find it. I can get. What's the word? Um, I dissect it and then find the pieces that work for me.
Mhm.
And based on how they're talking, I get a sense of, well, is this true or not, or does this work for me or not, or whatever. And that's how I gather information. I look at stuff and I go, is this going to support me or not support me? Is it, you know um we look at, like, do I so now when I look at movies, I see like they have their ratings, but I want to know what people are saying about it, why they liked it, what they didn't like, and I just peruse. It's the same thing when I go to Amazon, I'm going to buy something and all that. But I don't spend at some point I have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is sometimes my guess is we gather way too, there's a difference between researching and gathering information and then making a decision with all that information. How do you go, I have enough information. Now I have to do the next step. And I think sometimes we get so caught up on gathering all that information that we forget to make the decision.
Yeah, and there are plenty of studies out there, in the business world, where with too much information, with, or too many choices, we are unable to make a decision, to make a choice. And I've seen this so much, especially with my kids that are in their early 30s. When I was growing up, I didn't have that many choices. It was yes or no. The maybes were rare. So it was a yes, it was a black and white. In my world was more of a black and white. There were very little gray in my world. And so you either made those decisions between two, maybe three things that existed. You didn't have a gazillion options. My kids today, as I see them growing, especially when they were in high school and going to college, they had so many choices that, especially one of them, this person had so much difficulty making a decision that it was almost paralyzing,
Mm.
to the point where there's an agony around making a decision, right? And I see this even in little ones now, in like in kids, teenagers today, where they have so many choices. Just look at TV. Just let's just take something really simple. TV channels. Do you really need 800 or whatever number, thousands of TV channels? Seriously? I grew up with 4, and I was very happy. And when nothing was on, I would go and play outside, right? Instead of surfing. So the overabundance of choice is preventing us, or the overabundance of different things to choose from prevents us from making a decision, and it paralyzes us. It keeps us in the unknown and in the inaction. So that is one thing about too much information. It keeps us in the unknowing or inaction mode. So that's one aspect of too much information.
And and with that, I think about also as I work with midlife women, one of the things is we have a tendency of forgetting that we're collecting all this data, but we're not checking in with how it feels with ourselves, our intuition, our our wisdom. Here's the thing is, as a midlife woman, again, we have been on this planet for a certain amount of time. We've had a certain amount of life experiences, and we need to look at what we've done in the past, even though we're going into the future. Now, sometimes we've made choices when we were younger that might have not been as wise as we thought we were, but we learned something from that and we can go forward. So one of the things is, ask yourself when you're going through a decision or something like that, why am I collecting, what's the reason for collecting this information?
Yeah.
When am I going to say enough is enough, and let me sit down and maybe do a list or a mind map, or have a friend and brainstorm about three of the things that you're going to focus on, or something, so that you pare it down. Because I can have reams and reams of information, but if I don't pare it down and start prioritizing, it's going to be reams and reams of information. So sometimes as I'm starting a project right now, so I'm gathering all the little tidbits information, putting them in the folder, and then at some point I got to say, okay, I've got enough information. Now I got to start disseminating and deciding what stays, what goes.
Yeah.
How do I declutter from all that information? And the other thing too is, I think there's something to be said of unplugging from the outer world. So that way we're not always saturated with so much gobbledygook coming through all the social media and TV, and I don't know if does anybody listen to radio anymore. But those kind of things is, to say, what, I did that this past weekend. I got off everything, and I had to, and I realized it was kind of refreshing not to be plugged in. So that's just some thoughts about how to, giving ourselves permission to take a break from all the stuff coming in at us.
Yeah, and those are great suggestions about unplugging and things like this. And I just want to go a little bit back to something you said, about accumulating information. I see a lot of stepmoms asking the same question over and over again, and about issues that they're going through, whether it's court, custody. The thing is that sometimes we're asking questions that require expertise. Now, going on the internet and asking all these questions about other people's personal experience is okay, but you also need expert advice. Someone who can actually answer to your specific situation. Because the thing is, we are all individuals living different experiences. And although they may be similar, there are things within your unique situation that requires someone to look at it at a deeper level. And then people will share things that may or may not be appropriate, right? Sometimes there are parts of, when we've been talking about news and facts and data, and that's one part of sharing, but there's also the aspect of oversharing from a personal level, sharing stories about your relationship or your kids or your husband or your personal life that other people may not appreciate, because it takes a level of trust to be able to share this. And so when you're sharing things that are very deep and personal, especially when I'm thinking about stepmoms, you really need to think about it know, is this an appropriate time or place to be sharing this kind of information?
Yeah, and that's true, because I think one of the things is, again, because of social media, we have a tendency to think that we can. I always say, would you share this with a person face to face?
Hmm. Yep.
Would you share this information to a room full of 2,000 people in a room that you've never met, and just, blurt this out? Some people do, some people don't. And so one of the things is, we think, what it's like driving in a car. There's this thing when you're driving a car, you think you're invisible. But people can see you because you're in a car. Okay. So, and I forget as I'm driving, like, sometimes, that I'm singing on the top of my lungs and dancing in my car. And I know that that's affecting people around me, because it appears that I'm not paying attention, but I am. But yet, but then again, I do start singing do I start singing on the top of my lungs? And I don't know. I usually hum very loudly, but here's the thing, is the same thing. The internet and social media gives this wacky sense of anonymity, but we still can see it. So I think share. You need to be discerning about what information you share with whom at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the word discerning, because I think we become a world where having no filters is sort of like becoming the norm. And we need to be able to decide for ourselves, if this appropriate? Is this appropriate information to share? First of all, I want to say, like, whatever information you share, think of it, is this accurate? And what's the purpose of sharing it? Is it to gossip? Right? Because sometimes people love to gossip, and so they feel like oversharing and gossiping is fine. And, think of the consequences of what you're sharing. What's the purpose of you sharing that information? What's the outcome you want to get out of sharing this information? And what's the consequence? And, like, what are you going to get out of this?
And sometimes we need to also remember that, I think, I know this goes back to something you said earlier, Claudette, that my personal experience is not quite the same as anybody else's. We all go through trauma and drama in our lives, and we all have to deal with something. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's yearly. We all got to deal with something. And we all have something to share or express into the world. But the thing is, and sometimes we forget that, if whatever I'm sharing about, let's say, my insomnia, that's my experience with insomnia. And I'm not an expert with insomnia, but I'm expert of living with insomnia. It's like, I know what it is to live, not, every night is a gamble of if I'm going to get enough sleep or not. So I can share about, what techniques or things that I do for myself to make sure I get sleep. I don't know, but it might not work for everybody. And that's the thing is, again, the reason I might want to share is, I know, and the only reason I would share that, I'm just using that as an example, if someone said, I know you have insomnia, what do you do? Otherwise, to me, a lot of times when people share way too much information, it's like they're trying to give advice, or they're trying to fix something. And you know what? When I'm listening to somebody, I've had to learn that I'm not there to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not there to make it better. I'm not there. All I can do is be empathetic, be a good listener, be supportive the best way I can in the moment. So I think that goes into why are you why we might be sharing some stuff is, you know, are you trying to fix something?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just share information of what other people have said, is just they're saying it better than I do, in a way that's more succinct. So I might, you know, put that out there, or, you know, but again, I have to be discerning about what I give, what I receive. Um, and as I work, you know, a lot of times when I or many times when I work with some clients, what they decided, what happens is they get stuck in, well, this worked for so and so, so it should work for me, and I have to say, but so and so is a very different person than you are. What you can do is experiment and see if it works or not. But I think it goes back to, you might have to get professional help around it.
Yeah. And you know, there's times to share. Like, I've shared some personal things that happened to me, and at that moment, whatever I shared was appropriate for the conversation that was going on, and I was okay and comfortable. And the purpose for sharing is in part to help someone who may have been living something similar, to see that, you know, wow, you know, there are ways to move past, and so to inspire and give hope to someone. So sometimes there are moments that sharing some personal aspect of our lives can be helpful when it's in the when it's done with the intention of giving inspiration, giving hope, you know, helping that person to move forward. So, you know, it's a very fine line when you're thinking about, am I oversharing, or is this like trying to help someone or inspire someone? Again, it's about the end result, right? So whenever you're having a conversation, what's the intention behind what you're sharing? What's the intention or the outcome you want to see? Because sometimes people are oversharing in order to get the limelight, to get a reaction out of someone, to either spark anger, surprise, you know, just to jot someone out of their own reality.
Yeah, and I think it also goes to something that just popped into my head as you were talking, Claudette, is I recently had a conversation with a woman who was she was talking or sharing things that was going on in her life with her family, and and she was, you know, going on and on and on, and I finally said to her, I go, you know what, this sounds very impactful, it sounds rough. I go, how can what can I do to help? And she said, oh, I'm just venting. And so now I have a new thing, is when someone says they want to share something, I go, is this something that you're concerned about, or are you just venting about what's going on? Because if
Yeah.
someone's venting, that's a whole different thing. You know, I need
Yeah.
to give them the space to vent, again, not to fix or make it better. And sometimes they don't want to, you know, a supportive, they just want someone to listen to them as they vent. Um, but if it's something that needs to be shared because of where they are and what they're struggling with, that's a very different thing. So I think once again, it comes down to, as a midlife woman, you know, trust that we understand that we can gather information, we can share what we can set those boundaries. We don't have to, you know, no, you know, it goes back to, no is not, does not need an explanation. We don't have to explain. We don't need mansplaining either. We can just, you know, say, no, that's, you know, I'm not going to share that right now. I don't need to give you that information. we can also say, I need to share something with you. This is what's going on. This is, so I think a lot of times people dive into something or jump into something and they don't put any parameters around it. And as a person receiving, sometimes I need to ask, what is this for? What are you, um, but as a someone who works in that kind of field, that's the thing I work with clients, even in groups, I say, because I work mostly as a group um, facilitator, and it's the same thing is, how, is how are you sharing this in this group? How is that going to inspire or impact or um, uh, engage other people? How do we have a conversation in a group or singly? And so those are things you can work on. And as we close up, you might want to see where you need help around uh, unplugging or discerning. And so if you're a stepmom and you're just having a hard time, letting go of all the research or gathering too much information, how can they get a hold of you, Claudette, so that they can actually make a decision or find the support they need as they move forward in time?
Yeah, thank you, Sharona. So if you're a stepmom and you're ready to jump into action instead of just gathering all this information or simply venting. So if you're ready to jump into action and do what you need to do in order to build a stronger and healthier step family, you can reach me at Claudette at StepMomCoach.com. You can visit my website, StepMomCoach.com, hashtag StepMomCoach, and hashtag StepMomWisdom. On my website, if you check it out, there's also some e-courses that you can take that would pertain to different areas of your life, whether it's having more confidence, dealing with conflict, dealing with stress. There's different things that it can help you, and they're action oriented. So it's not something you just read and accumulate more information. You're actually going to be doing something, which is really important. So, I love what Sharona said about, we need space and to vent and share. And, I'm there for you. I'm there to hear your story. I'm here to listen and empathize with you, but I'm also here to help you move past the sharing and venting. I'm here to help you to actually do something concrete to help you move forward. And so, Sharona, what about you? So, where can midlife women, how can they get a hold of you to help them move past the oversharing or just researching and getting back on track with their lives?
Thanks, Claudette. So you can reach me at Sharona at midlifewomendancingwithchange.com or at my website, www.midlifewomendancingwithchange.com, hashtag midlifewomendancingwithchange, or hashtag emotional impact. And here's the thing. I'm I'll I'll give you information, but it's also like Claudette, it's action oriented. So, matter of fact, if you go to my website or my social media, you will find I have a free mini e-seminar called Thriving in the Midst of Midlife Change. And there's a little information, a couple little activities you can do. And again, I am a good listener, but you know what? I'm also a really good, faithful sidekick who is going to also kick you in the butt. I do not mess around here. I'm not one of these hand holders. I sometimes I've been known to be kind of blunt, but empathetic. to help you as a midlife woman to say, okay, this is where you are, this is where you're going, what's stopping you from getting there, let's work through that. And we're not going to take years, we're going to take moments. And and I just, that's how I function. It's like there's a point where we got to go, okay, let's put our feet to the ground and let's take that first initial step. And then it's just one action step after another. And that's what we do. That's what I can do for you. And but I am a faithful sidekick. And that's something that as midlife women we sometimes don't have, is someone on on our side, helping us navigate through this period in our life called midlife. You know, how do we make that jump from where we were to where we're going? And sometimes it looks like a very big, wide abyss, but we can do it together, so that way we're building the bridges and the steps to get us across that abyss. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. Hope that wasn't too much information. And oh, I snorted. And and just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Coletta. And here's the thing: is we have a lot of episodes. Like I said, we've been doing this for a year. Go back. Look at over what we have. We have everything from procrastination to
Anger management, stress.
conflict resolution. We got it all. There's all, and there's always, because there's always more things to talk about. Subscribe, comment below. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye, Claudette?
Just that when you re-listen to our episodes, just make sure to have pen and paper to take notes, because we always share a lot of quality, informative, action-oriented information.
Yes, we do. And also, you know what? If you find this useful, please share it. You know, the more the
Yep.
merrier. The more the merrier. So everybody, thank you, Claudia, again. Everybody, thank you for being here. And hopefully we'll see you next week on another episode of Conversations That Matter Most. Bye for now.
Bye.